And I'm convincing myself that it's a beautiful morning and everything's going my way because I'm not feeling that way so much. I'm gonna be honest. I just lost my dear mother Christmas Eve, and it's not been. Sometimes it's a little easier than other days, but she lived with my husband and me, and I took care of her. And she was 90, but nonetheless. My mother and I and my father and my brother, our family was very, very close. I lived next door to my parents and raised my children that way, a good part of our raising of our children. And I taught when I wasn't in the same town as them. I talked to them every day, sometimes twice a day. My mother was always over. My father was always over. So it's a big loss, but life goes on, and I sing a lot. I really do. I sing a lot, and it does help me. So those are the kind of songs I sing, like Zippity Doo Dah and those kinds of things, just to kind of antidote the true feeling I'm experiencing sometimes. And I know someone's going to say, Joette, have you taken Ignatia? And oddly enough, I do this to myself all the time. I really didn't take it for quite a while, and then I said, I guess it's time to take Ignatia. And so I have been taking it. It has made a difference, of course. Ignatia is an amazing medicine. And I used Ignatia 200 twice a day, and it has helped me. However, when I go into her bedroom, because now it's a guest room, and I have been settling it and changing it and, making it more for guests now. But when I go in there, it's just, it's hard. We get greedy. I got greedy. I wanted her to be around forever. My father too. So these are the kinds of songs we have to sing sometimes to counteract the sadness that life can bring sometimes. So hi, Elaine. Hi, Janet. Nice to see you. Brenda. Donna, hi. It's wonderful to see everyone. So let's see who else we've got here. Lisa Heinrichs. Oh, it's so nice to see people that I've known for years. I've known Lisa. I've known you a long time, Lisa. I don't know, 20 years maybe. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you with your hearts. Yes, thank you. Thank you for everyone. It's a sad thing to go through, but what can you ask for? 90 years old. I had her a long time. My father was 90 also. They were both over 90. And I had them a good long time. I'm very blessed. Some people don't have their parents even from the time of birth. So it's a long time. It's funny because I never made a move in my life, even as an adult, a mature adult, without my parents' counsel. I asked them about everything. And I'm in my late 60s, even into my 60s. Now, my mother had late stage dementia, so I didn't ask her counsel so much. But I certainly asked her up until that time, what should I do about this? I'm thinking about this. What are your thoughts about it? And I listened to them. They had wisdom. People older than us who love us dearly have wisdom. So it's important. Yep. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Angela, Heather, Jan. It's wonderful to see all these names. It's wonderful. All right, let's get to the business at hand, and that is heart palpitations and exceptionally fast heart rates. This is a subject, speaking of my father, which is another reason I wanted to bring this up. It's dear to my heart because I'll be discussing tonight what I used for my father who had cardiac conditions, many cardiac conditions. He eventually passed away as a result of cardiac arrest. And so, but it prolonged his life a good long time. My father had cardiac problems. I think he had his first cardiac arrest when he was in his early 60s. And as I said, he died just over 90. and was able to eliminate a lot of drugs. Now, it didn't mean that he was completely free of drugs. And I'm not going to tell people, in fact, with my clients, I never say get off of that medication. I would never do that. I want people to work with their doctor, their cardiologist. We want to know what it is. We want to know how they're experiencing it. And if they've already started a medication, then they should indeed stay with it. Because by hopping off of medications, whether it's blood pressure or cardiological or thyroid or any other kind of endocrine medication, if you just get off of it, you can cause more trouble. So what I say instead is that we use these homeopathic medicines in tandem with the conventional meds. And hopefully, in some situations, if the person is doing well enough, then they do so well that they go back to their doctor and say, look, doc, I'm really doing well with this medication that you're giving me or whatever it is that I'm using at this time. And I would like to back off a little bit. And hopefully the doc would be willing to do that if it's called for. And you can start backing off potentially of cardiological medications. So this is not a medicine that you've never heard of. You've heard of this. It's used allopathically, but we also use it homeopathically. And the medicine is Digitalis purpurea. It's Digitalis. And everyone knows about it. It's foxglove. And everyone knows about it because it is used conventionally. It is one of the best cardiological medicines we have, especially for a racing heart. So I've got my Materia Medica. I'm always writing all over it, and I've got notes all over it and all to help me teach you. Here's my Materia Medica, should you be interested. But you can read about Digitalis in any Materia Medica, but this is mine. Should you be interested, you can certainly contact my office and get one. But it's, you know what, see if I've got another pair of glasses. I'm going to change glasses with this particular light. I think these are going to work better. Okay. All right. So it was first proven in the 18th century by an English botanist. And this is what I've written about in my blog here. It's foxglove. It's a lethal poison. And we know in homeopathy that the poisons are some of the best medicines. We don't use it as a poison because it's, of course, highly diluted. And so for my father, I had used Digitalis in a 6X. I also used it in a 30C, and I also used it in a 200C, and I adjusted it accordingly. Now, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to be able to tell you exactly how to do this for every situation, but I am going to tell you that I used all three of those potencies for him through the years and changed them according to his needs. So foxglove is a lethal poison. Consuming the flowers or seeds of this plant produces gastrointestinal, circulatory, and heart problems, most notably slowing the heartbeat. Therefore, as a medicine, Digitalis is given to patients suffering from heart palpitations and exceptionally fast heart rates. And that is so true when it comes to conventional medicine, but we're going to use it also homeopathically. So homeopaths use Digitalis anytime the heart cannot maintain a normal pace, especially when the person also experiences breathing problems, but it doesn't have to be there. My father never had breathing problems. It was only heart. Should you be interested in learning more about how I worked with my dad, I wrote an article, and I've referred to this before, titled My Dad and the Dead Cardiologists. And if you just Google that, you'll read exactly what I did, at least at that point in my working with him. We changed things accordingly, but that's pretty much a good summation of how we followed through in his schedule. It's for heart ailments and circulatory problems, principally if the person also experiences fear of death and concern that at any moment it may cause the heart to stop beating. So heart patients who need this remedy may also suffer from liver problems such as hepatitis. Not necessarily so. It can be in tandem, but not necessarily so. So Digitalis is chiefly indicated for heart problems when accompanied by other symptoms such as visual problems. craving for bitter things, vertigo, cyanosis, pain in the region of the heart, etc., etc. So it can also be used sometimes when someone has these kinds of heart conditions and they have a broken heart. So the loss of a spouse, a breakup of a marriage, loss of a child, that can certainly be, if these heart conditions, such as the rapid heartbeat, occurs, or palpitations occur, this could indeed be the medicine. The way that I most often use it is in a 30th potency. And when my father was suffering from this, we used it daily, twice a day, every day. And then it started to slow down. We didn't see it happening. Over a period of weeks, we saw a shift. And so we tested it and said, let's back off, not use it for a little while and see if it's still needed. And indeed, after about 2 weeks of not using it, the palpitations returned, the faster heart rate started to pick up. And so we went back to it again. And then we went back to Digitalis 30C twice daily. And it really made a big difference. So, I mean, it regulated his heart for him. It's homeopathic remedy Digitalis has also been known to interact with certain medications, including cholesterol-lowering medicines and arrhythmia drugs, nitroglycerin, some antibiotics, and antifungal medications, etc., etc. So it's best to use under the care of a trained homeopath. Or when you are already using these medications, you might not want to use homeopathic Digitalis. So it is a warning. This is not very common. I can see better. My goodness. Okay, now I can see the screen better. Now I look like I've been drinking. It's fairly uncommon for homeopathic medicines to interact with conventional meds. Usually it's the other way around. And because they're on such different planes, because homeopathy is treating, remember, on it's more of an energetic level. And I hate to use that term because it makes it sound new age, and that's not at all what I'm saying. But there is something energetic about it because the original substance is nearly gone. It's still there, but so small that it's a nanodose, and it's on such a different level than a gross dose that's being used in conventional medicine. So it's in this situation, I would be a little more careful with using it, and with other medications. But if my father, let me put it to you this way. When my father was taking more meds, if he needed Digitalis because his heart was racing, to be honest, I would just have used it. I'm not telling you that you should do that. I'm bold. My father was willing for me to be bold. He wanted my help. He knew that he wouldn't be able to get to a cardiologist for a while. There were times when, and I've talked about this before, when my father would have cardiological events, palpitations, etc., and we would, or angina even, and we would drive to the emergency room and park the car in the parking lot and just wait there to see how he did once I had given him the medicine. And we would park very close to the emergency room. We knew that we could get in at any time. He was comforted knowing that they were only steps away, and so was I, because, especially when I first started working in homeopathy, I really didn't know the ability of these medicines. I didn't have a lot of experience. So I was using what I'd been trained to use and hoping for the best. So I would bring the medicines. I actually had all of his medicines that were cardiological in a Ziploc bag that said emergency, cardiological, or heart. I think I wrote on it. I had one of those packets, a Ziploc bag, in my home and that I kept near where I might need to run and grab it. And my father also had one, a duplicate of that bag. And so we would grab the bag. There would always be water in the car. We lived in Buffalo where it was cold, so we often had blankets in the car. We kept a candle in the car. We put on classical music and often played cards right in the parking lot, waiting for the medicines to act. And I never remember, in all those years until he was much, much older, and he actually did have um, much more severe cardiac arrest. And indeed, we still use the medicines; they still acted. But in the ambulance, I administered it. But those first 30 years, when he was in his 60s, his 70s, his 80s, and we were going to the emergency room parking lot, we never went in. By the time we sat there for an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes even 3 hours, just in case, we could then turn around and go back home, and he went right to bed. And then, of course, he would contact his cardiologist the next day and let him know what was happening. And so, we wanted to cover all our bases. We wanted to be safe with this. This was, it was an important condition that we needed to watch closely. My father at first did not believe in homeopathy. And so I often laugh and say, I used to put it in his soup. And my mother and I knew what we were doing. And he would say, wow, this soup really makes me feel much better. And then eventually he started coming around and we told him about the soup. First, he didn't like the idea, and then he kind of laughed about it. But by the time my father got into his mid-80s, he loved this medicine. He learned it. He was studying it. Not the way I'm teaching you to study it, but he would study the medicines that were useful for him. He would open up the Materia Medica and read about it and learn about it. And he was also treating my mother. And once I gave him a schedule of medicines to use, he lived it, ordered the remedies when he needed them. He was completely into it and swore by its ability. It saved him many, many times on many different levels. My mother as well. So I know you're going to ask me lots of questions about this medicine. Let's see. Now I'm going to have to change glasses again. I think I'm going to need for the small writing. Okay. I'm so excited you've decided on this topic. I'm taking my mom to her first cardiological appointment tomorrow. Yes. Learn what she's got. See what you can do homeopathically. And there's a lot that can be done. Is there a link for me to get here? I have to hunt this all the time. And by accident, I'm able to find it sometimes. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe Natalie, you can answer that for her. It'll show Joette's a team. So she'll answer that for you. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Some people are saying exactly how to do this. I don't look myself up, to be honest. Okay. Can you get Digitalis toxicity? You mean from taking homeopathy? No, not. I mean, here's the thing. When we're using Digitalis 30C, it's diluted 30 times to the 100th power. Let me back up. Anything you take has a risk. Homeopathy, of all the medicines on earth, is the most, in my estimation, the most risk-free. We don't see homeopathic medicines pulled off the market, and they are regulated by the FDA. So homeopathy's been around for 230 years. We don't have thalidomide problems. We don't have Darvan problems. We don't have birth control problems. We don't have those kinds of conditions that people suffer and have these medicines yanked off of the shelves because we know about these medicines. We learned about them back in the early 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, and our Materia Medicas. I have about 30 of them, 32, I think, with different Materia Medicas that I own of different authors. There are many different authors from all over the world over the last many decades and century and a half, 2 centuries. And this is the medicine that is consistent. It doesn't change. What we used for palpitations in the early 1800s in Paris, France, in Stuttgart, Germany, in Boston, Massachusetts, by homeopathic doctors in their homeopathic hospitals is exactly the same as we use in 2020. It's the same medicine in the same method. So there's nothing capricious about this. It's, but should you have any worry, be sure to read more I urge you to read more. Some of our best medicines are toxins. Belladonna, a beautiful medicine for ear infections and fevers and severe headaches, etc. Arsenicum album, incredible for stomach flu, diarrhea, severe diarrhea. Nux vomica, excellent for poisoning from alcohol or from the wrong foods. These are all toxic medicines, but I'm giving you only the name. I'm not telling you what potency. The potencies are what make the medicines. Nux vomica 200C, belladonna 630C or 30C, rhus tox, poison ivy. It's amazing for arthritis. So, but it's used in a 200 potency or 30th potency. That's how different this medicine is. We're using toxins, but we're using them pharmacologically, mathematically, intelligently, and because they're diluted to a nano level, which stimulates the body's natural ability to make the correction. For tachycardia syndrome, if there's tachycardia, it could be the correct medicine. It could be used, potentially used. Yes, it is. I know this is important information. We all need to know about this. By the way, I'm going to be doing a podcast soon about what's happening to homeopathy in our United States with the FDA. Please pay attention to it. This podcast will come up probably within the next week or so. Listen to it. Please write to the FDA. We have exactly what you should, of how to do it, what the contact is, what can be said. It's very important that we keep homeopathy safe in our country. It is I consider it under siege. Some people think it's nothing to be concerned about. I disagree. Okay. And it's generally used twice daily. For my father, I use it sometimes in an acute situation. I used it a little more frequently, maybe every hour. When it was an extreme situation, every 3 hours. As soon as it was better, we stopped. After 2, 3, 4 doses, tops 4 doses. If there was no change, then we stop. That's the way we use these medicines. And I want to make it very clear that I am not telling people to stay away from cardiologists. You need your cardiologist. You need to know what's going on. And you don't want to argue with your cardiologist and say, I'm using homeopathy. I'm not going to use what you tell me to use. That's a slap in the professional face. We don't do that to our doctors. Instead, we take what they give us and we use that to the best that we can. If you're already taking the medications, by all means, you stay on them and perhaps employ homeopathy alongside it. All righty. Let's see. Will this be a good remedy if someone has heart palpitations after using an inhaler for asthma? We're not saying, that's a good question. We're not saying this is only heart palpitations for someone who's a cardiological patient. We can use it for palpitations that come as a result of eating too much chocolate, from a racing heart, from perhaps even too much coffee. It's not my first choice. My first choice for those kinds of situations would be to use something because it's a food intolerance of sorts. And for an inhaler, I would more likely go with something like camphor, C-A-M-P-H-O-R. Sometimes there's an A at the end of it because it's a Latin word. 200C, because that helps antidote the ill effects of the inhaler. We don't want to antidote the effects of the inhaler, but the ill effects of the inhaler, which is, of course, the palpitations. So I would be more inclined, when it's a drug that causes it, I would start with something that helps antidote the ill effects of the drug. Where can you find it? This can be found by going to Boiron, B-O-I-R-O-N. I believe they carry it. You could probably find it on Amazon. You want to always buy from our American pharmacies. Boiron, Highlands, Hahnemann Pharmacy, Washington Homeopathy. Who am I missing? Hahnemann, Highlands, OHM Pharmacy. If you're a student or client of mine, OHM Pharmacy, but you have to be a student or client to order from them. All righty. Let's see. What would I use for elevated heart rate when I awaken at night, first thing in the morning, and after naps? So I can't tell you what you should use, but I will tell you that this medicine is, if you read it and if it seems, whenever I teach these medicines, go to the Materia Medica and look at it and read it. And you have to make these decisions. I can't tell you what to take. I don't know your case, and I'm certainly not going to argue with your physician. All right. I also want to mention tonight, thank you for reminding me, that we wrote a blog, or I wrote a blog the other day, and we had a lot of comments on it. And the blog was about the reasons that we love homeopathy. And we had a wonderful response from a woman named Karen. She said, I've got more reasons why I love homeopathy and why it's so great. She gave 4 very good reasons. So I would love for you folks to go to my blog. If you've got more reasons, I want to keep going with this. This post on the blog was from Sunday night. That was last night. So if you go to the last post and comment and give me your reasons, read mine, read Karen's, and then add your own. Some people come up with ideas that I don't even think about or I haven't thought about in a long time. So I love to hear from you folks. People out there, you folks are creative. It's like you give me your pearls. You think I'm giving to you. You don't understand that I get a lot from you as well. Okay. Could you say Digitalis is a chronic heart remedy and Crataegus grandis and aconite more acute? Yes, you could say that, but I wouldn't make that so myopic that you can't move outside of those two, out of those parameters. I would say all 3 of them could be chronic, and all 3 of them could be acute. Aconitum is most likely going to be an acute one. I didn't think the remedies would work if you are, I don't understand. I'll read the next one. What about less severe conditions, racing heart and palpitations, but no fear of death? Yeah, see, don't think that you have to have all of the symptoms. You can use this medicine with just racing heart if it's a cardiological problem. Absolutely. How do doctors react when they hear homeopathic digitalis was used? Doctors are never familiar with it, not in the U.S. You will not likely find a doctor who is familiar with it. In fact, they get frightened because they look up digitalis, or they know what digitalis does, and they're going to think that you're playing around with something that's poisonous. I wish this, let's see, I wish I knew this when my something was alive. Father-in-law must be, and when he lived with us. Yeah, I know. There's so many things I wish I knew earlier in life. What will one use if one has a heavy feeling over the heart area? Well, heavy feeling is a different. If it depends on, if we're talking about someone is a heavy feeling because of emotions. Is it a heavy feeling because the person has a cardiological problem? I need to know a little bit more about that. Does digitalis help when heart only suddenly starts to race for 20 seconds or so, a few times a day? Could you give a brief example of dosage? For something like that, of course, it depends on the person. It depends on the circumstances. Are we talking about someone who's allergic? Are we talking, because that could cause allergies, can do that? Are we talking about someone who has a cardiological problem? Is it related to asthma? Is it related to a drug? So I need to know a little bit more. If it's completely out of the clear and it does seem to be a cardiological problem, then you might use Digitalis 30, a couple doses here, over a period of a couple of, maybe 30 minutes or an hour if it's severe enough. But you want to make sure that you have eliminated all the other possibilities as well. All right. Wow, this has gone longer than I always expect. Heart racing with anxiety. Yeah, you bet. This can have anxiety. Heart rate from using an inhaler. Same thing. Yeah, Camphora, thank you for repeating that. Very good. All right, I'm going to have to cut it short. I love all your questions. So, yeah. Elevated heart rate from anxiety. Elevated heart rate from anxiety? No, that's not where I would go with Digitalis. Nope, I would go with an anxiety medicine. I'm so glad I read that one. I would not go with that. I would use Digitalis when it is a heart condition that happens also to have anxiety associated with it, not the other way around, because anxiety can cause an elevated heart rate. Now, go to my blog and read anxiety and look at the medicines for anxiety. Then go to your Materia Medica and read up on those medicines and see if they fit. They're more likely, it's going to more likely be an anxiety medicine, not a cardiology medicine. Okay, I think we've got it. And with that, I wish you a very happy new year. And what else do I need to tell you? I guess that's it. God bless all of you. And good night, everyone. See you next week. Bye now.